And residents of Daboya in the North Gonja district kick against health officers personally procuring and selling medicines to them at exorbitant prices.
Coming up in business tonight, Ghana Cocoa Board signs $1.3 billion loan facility for cocoa purchases this season.
And on the international front, at least 225 people killed in Mexico City's Tuesday earthquake. We've got the details of these stories for you here on News 360, plus the latest from the world of sports and entertainment. So stay with us. You're streaming live on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. In our very first story this evening, the Volta Regional Police Command has asked people not to demonstrate without permits in the Togolese protest. Heavily armed police personnel from the SWAT unit and anti-terrorism are at the Aflao border to prevent a planned protest by Togolese supporters in Ghana.
A group of supporters of the Togolese opposition party wrote to the police in the Volta region to stage a protest in support of their colleagues in Togo. However, the police declined their request. Intelligence picked up by the police indicate that the group planned to secretly hold the protest.
If we have come to an agreement, we have to make sure and make follow-ups to check and see that what that we have agreed upon is actually working on the grounds.
Heavy police presence at the Aflao border prevented the demonstrators. The police, made up of the SWAT team and counter-terrorism team, are on the ground monitoring the situation. Activities at the border came to a standstill Wednesday morning following the presence of the police. Regional Operations Commander ACP Ben Ania says the police will take no chances. Addressing his men, he said the police will only be withdrawn with instructions from the headquarters. Meanwhile, activities at the border returned to life after some hours. The police have called for public cooperation in the wake of the massed political protest in the Togolese capital.
And as we know, Ghanaians are currently paying more for petrol and diesel few months after enjoying fairly low prices. Current figures from the petroleum industry show that prices of the two products at the various fuel stations have hit an all-time high, with petrol selling at 4.29 Ghana cedis and diesel going for 4.23 Ghana cedis per litre as the third week of September 2017. And the Institute of Energy Securities had earlier predicted a 77% increase in fuel prices. Now, this increase has been attributed to the marginal depreciation of the cedi as well as increased global crude oil prices due to the recent floods in the United States. And I'm going to run us by Alfred, just taking a look at the look of fuel since the beginning of the year, from January through to September, where we are now, specifically petrol. Now, at the beginning of the year, January, we were paying for a litre of petrol, that's 4 cedi 8 pesos. And in February, you can see a bit of an increase, taking us to 4 cedi 21 pesos. And then in March, an increase yet again, 4 cedis 24 pesos. And a decrease of 24 pesos in April, just bringing it to a litre for 4 cedis. And then in May, a decrease to 3 cedis 88 pesos. In June, we see yet another decrease to 3 cedi 84 pesos. And then July, 3 cedis stayed and 77 pesos, so a slight decrease yet again. And in August, it rose up to 4 cedis 3 pesos. And in September, 4 cedis 29 pesos. And that's where we are at now. So you're comparing January of 4 cedis 8 pesos to where we are at now, September 4 cedis 29 pesos. And that's the call from some energy experts calling for a reduction in taxes there. And so that's what the picture looks like, Alfred. And we're going to be taking this discussion a little bit further.
Absolutely. And a number of people are calling for a certain response from government. Certainly. And indeed, the transport unions threatening to increase transport fares by 30%. The GPRTU is saying that they haven't given that directive. But I've been joined via Skype by Richmond Roxon. He is the principal researcher at the Institute of Energy Security. Richmond, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, despite this a huge increase. We're talking about 4 cedis, 29 pesos per litre for petrol. Your institute is projecting a further 7% increase in prices of fuel.
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. You know very well that every 2 weeks what we do is we put together a market scan by looking at the industry, putting together the indicators and determining what the prices will be in the next window. In the first pricing window in September, prices went up by 2 to 3%. And in this very window, we're expecting that prices are going to go up by 7%, between 7 to 10%. This is because the cedi is depreciating. We've mentioned that already. The dollar is stronger than the cedi as we speak. It's 4 cedis, 48 pesos on average terms as compared to the previous average of 4 cedis, 44 pesos. Crude oil prices have gone up on the international market by some 4% as at the last.
I see. So we're going to try to get through to Richmond Roxon back again, but he was making that point earlier on. So Richmond, welcome back again. Now, so what you're saying is that our viewers, commuters, private car owners should brace themselves up for more increases in fuel prices in the coming days.
Exactly. The prices have already gone up. We know the number of warrants have increased. If you check the OMC, you realize that some of them were doing 4 cedis 13 pesos as we speak. They are doing 4 cedis 41 pesos for gasoline. For gas oil, they've moved from 4 cedis 13 pesos to about 4 cedis 33 pesos. That is reduced to 29 pesos. So on average, you can see that the 7% that we projected has come to pass. That is exactly what the industry is doing as we speak.
Right. So now, considering what's happening on the world market now, what should be the appropriate response of government to deal with it? Because already transport unions are threatening a 30% increase in transport fares. So clearly there has to be a response. What should we be seeing from government?
Although it's a deregulated market, we know that still government has some control. When you check the cedi, the government has the responsibility to be able to manage the Ghana cedi. Aside that, the number of taxes and levies that we find in the petroleum price build-up, we've argued that we don't think that a special petroleum tax is still necessary. Although government reviewed it from 17.5 to 15%, we think that it shouldn't be there in the first place. We don't know why you put the formula together with levies and taxes and after slap 15% on taxes again. Is on the head of that you are going to tax another tax. We don't think that is appropriate. We think the government must take it off. When you look at the formula, there's price stabilization and recovery levy. That also we think that government must take it off because in the full deregulation regime, there's no need to have price stabilization and recovery levy, which is generally for under recoveries because you are passing the price on to the consumer. We are doing full cost recovery. If government is saying that should be it, then we expect that in times like this, in difficult times like this, government is going to apply these margins. In 2016 alone, government made about 500 million Ghana cedis in estimates from the price stabilization and recovery levy alone. We look at road fund, we think that 40 pesos is also too much. We should be able to do something about it. We can review some of them downwards and instead of seeing the current figures that we have, because 41% taxes in a litre of petrol or diesel is unacceptable. It's too high.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Richmond Roxon is the principal researcher with the Institute of Energy Security.
Yes, Alfred, let's turn our attention away from fuel prices now, as Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has hinted that no chief executive of any state-owned enterprise SOEs will earn more than the president. Ken Ofori-Atta said salaries and allowances of chief executives of state-owned enterprises will be cut to ensure it's in conformity with productivity.
We currently have a mirage of a remuneration schedule that we don't quite understand. There are quite a number of you that earn 3 times the salary of the president, and I think we need to begin to rationalize and maybe make it clear where remuneration is, which will not go beyond the presidency, since you are states under them, and look at a performance bonus structure, which then will reward you for what you do. But these are all thoughts, because it's quite anomalous as we look at the various certain allowances, board fees, remunerations, and all sorts of other benefits which are not aligned.
All right, so that's the finance minister, but he talks about a mirage of remuneration schedule. Now, Professor Justice Nyingma Bole is a head of Department for Public Administration and Health Services Management at the University of Ghana Business School. I want to engage him a bit on this. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Now, is it really the case that by best practice, state-owned enterprises, CEOs of state-owned enterprises should not have their salaries being more than that of the president?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, and good evening to your viewers. I think that we need to be extremely careful when we talk about what the remuneration packages are for people that we ask to do work for us. Oftentimes, I think what we do is we do a lot of emotional assessments of what our condition is and what the conditions of the people who work in these as heads of these units are. But if we can arrive at some very good conclusions, I think it doesn't have to be on emotions. It has to be looked at critically. Usually, when we are determining what somebody gets, we would ask the question, what skills do they come with? How long they need to stay in the training that qualifies them to be at the position that they are in, and what are the risks associated with the jobs that they are doing, what level of commitment do they require, to what extent do they bear the brunt of the errors that others commit who work under him, and a lot more factors are considered in determining what somebody takes. Elsewhere, I don't think it is the case that just because you are a public sector employee and work as CEO of a public sector agency or an SOE, you are not able to earn more than what the president gets. I think it's a case-by-case basis, and that it's often the case that the public sector determines what he wants to pay before he recruits. So it is not the case that people get recruited and then they determine or the boards determine what it is that they want. But the public sector decides that if we wanted somebody to head the Public Services Commission or any other agency, be they SOEs or mainstream agencies, we determine exactly what it is that the persons who are coming in there would have to offer and what they can take away. And usually when we do that, there are a number of things we look at. We ask the question, what remuneration package is adequate enough to attract the kind of person or the kind of brains that we want? We ask the question, what kind of remuneration package is able to retain the people that we have recruited or have been able to attract? And we ask the question, what kind of remuneration package is able to motivate the employees to give off their best? And then the last one, just before you take over, is whether or not we have capacity to pay. So these four variables would determine whether or not the state pays some particular somebody more than what the president gets or not. But I think that depending on what the agency is, what it generates, its importance to the states, and what the state value the state decides to put on it, some CEOs could earn more than the president. I think what is the case in our country is that there appears not to be a system for determining these things.
Absolutely, and that's the point I wanted to come in here, because the context in which the finance minister made that point, and which was corroborated by the vice president, is that a lot of these SOEs don't meet their KPIs, and yet their CEOs are paying themselves 3 times more than that of the president. Okay, so if we consider that and move away from the emotions, should the president's salary be used as a benchmark for the SOEs?
No, I don't think so. As I said, anywhere in the world, you will see that the president's salary, like all political appointees' salaries, are very emotional things, because people want to be able to associate with. And And so they want to see how much the president is getting. Don't forget that when we talk about the president's salary, a lot of the things the president gets are not in the form of salaries. So all of the other things that accrue to the president, plus the fact that the president retires on his salary, means that we cannot compare the president's salary to any other person. In other words, some other person who work in some state enterprises may not have all of the other things the president have. Of course, he is the president, so they cannot get that. But I think we need to look at the extent to which we would be able to get people who would want to commit themselves to giving the state what they want. So if, for example, we have a state enterprise and we think that this is a national, if you like, the eyeball of the country, and we think that this is important, and we think that we want a top-notch somebody who must, for example, resign from a high caliber position in a private enterprise to come and manage that for us because we consider it important, then we must want to pay the person something that will keep the person and will motivate the person to give up their best. And of course, it is us that we have, if we have capacity to pay, we do that.
Great.
But otherwise, I think Ghana should rationalize the salaries of all the SOEs. It should not be in the power of the board to determine what they pay, because you see that issue where the executive determines for parliamentarians determine for the executive, probably will creep in there.
Great. Prof, thank you for your time as always this evening. I'm grateful. Professor Justice Bale is the head of administrative and health reforms at the University of Ghana Business School, having some analysis there.
News 360 Skype interview is brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go.
Let's now turn to education, as managers of the Student Loan Trust Fund are heading to court against defaulters whose loan repayment has accumulated more than 12 million cedis. The trust wants the courts to compel borrowers to pay and sustain the fund for other students.
Established in 2005, the trust has since disbursed loans to more than 98,000 tertiary students. Between January and August this year, managers of the fund have disbursed more than 12 million cedis to students. 19,644 continuing students have benefited, while 13,116 fresh students also received part of the amount, representing 32,760 students who have so far benefited from the fund. However, managers of the fund complained that most of the applicant students cannot be traced to pay back the loan. Managers of the trust complain of poor recovery rates due to reluctance to pay or the death of beneficiary students.
People outside, they have associations, so if we can target their leaders, they can also communicate to people who owe. But more importantly, I think, one, that people are willing to pay, but if they don't know where to pay, that's difficult. Okay, so we are working with some banks, that can make it easier. Let's say if somebody is in New York, and you tell them go to Wells Fargo or go to, this bank and pay. Okay, it will be easier for them to do that.
He also said, though beneficiaries have up to the 7th year to repay the loan, many have refused to pay back. He assured of legal action against them.
We can move further to a point where if you're going to renew your license or apply for driver's license and you owe student loan, maybe you could be denied. As a last resort, maybe we can use the law courts, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. Okay, so we try to exhaust all possibilities.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Prempe, has sworn in a new board. He charged the board to also provide equal opportunities to applicants.
Introduce more diversified sources of funding for the trust fund. Improve on the methods for recovering loans from beneficiaries. I am confident that you are all up to the task.
We're still live here on News 360. You're streaming all across the world on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook and 3news.com. We've got the very latest of news for you from the world of business shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back to News 360. Time now for some business news. And we start off with the Ghana Cocoa Board, which has signed a $1.3 billion loan facility with some 25 banks in Paris, France. Speaking at the signing ceremony, the chief executive, Joseph Boahen-Edu, indicated the board will be knocking again on the doors of the syndicated banks for further medium-term financing of its upstream capital projects.
The annual Ghana Cocoa Board syndicated loan is the most prominent trade finance agreement in Africa. Wednesday's signing ceremony marked the 25th anniversary of Ghana's engagement in top-notch world commodity financing, which has earned the track record of never defaulting in its repayment. The loan syndication aimed at financing purchases of the 2017-2018 crop year was oversubscribed to $1.6 billion.
The repayment of the 2016-2017 facility was scheduled to be completed by the end of August 2017. By spirited efforts in the face of dire market challenges, Cocoa Board was able to finish the repayment before the end of July 2017. I'm therefore not surprised that the 2017-18 facility has been oversubscribed.
The chief executive officer also assured partners that, contrary to negative media reportage on cocoa from West Africa, Ghana's cocoa is clean.
Ghana's cocoa is clean cocoa and remains the premium cocoa and the benchmark of measuring the standard of cocoa in the world. In Ghana, the laws of the land and institutions work to ensure that cocoa is produced from only authorized lands. From a production figure of 255,000 metric tons in 1993, our production has more than tripled.
25 banks participated in the cocoa syndicated loan. They include Rabobank, Credit Agricole Corporate, Standard Bank, Natizes, and Ghana International Bank.
Now, some shippers in the Greater Accra region want government to remove the physical joint inspection component of the paperless transaction and enable clearance of goods devoid of human interference. According to them, automating the system will help reduce the dwell time for clearance.
I am asking that going forward, paperless is not enough. We need automation. It is not just a matter of eliminating the paper, but there are other customs procedures that should be equally automated. If I sit in my office, I know that I can do my declaration in a system. I can pay my taxes online. Customs will do their part online. I walk into the terminal and I take my cargo and I walk away. Then in that case, what customs need to do is to follow up with the post-clearance audit, because it's a facility that is in the system. After the clearance has been done, they can follow up and check at your premises. What indeed did you take out?
At the end of the day, if we're able to raise more revenue through the paperless system, it will be up to us to also approach government that, look, now that we are realizing our revenue, we believe strongly that for the purpose of compliance, why don't you reduce your tariffs so that people will voluntarily go and pay without cutting corners.
Customs says risk control measures embedded in the system can easily expose shippers who are not compliant and wants to cheat the system. As part of the monitoring of the new paperless system, the Ghana Shippers Authority met shippers in the Greater Accra region to review and map out strategies which could help address the teething challenges.
When we initially started 20 days ago, the bandwidth was a bit slow. It's been upped up. So, we are fine-tuning as we go on. These are things that are bound to come. But when they come up, they are brought immediately to the attention of all the relevant stakeholders.
Custom World, a subsidiary of the Ports and Custom and Free Zones Corporation in Dubai, has taken over West Blue Ghana Limited, the company engaged for the provision of the National Single Window and Risk Management System. Now, the new Ports and Customs World Ghana Limited will invest significant resources, including the capital, technologies and human expertise, as they have done in Dubai. The takeover will automate customs, free zones and port processes in Ghana and build the country's capacities through the application of technology and other services. The company will implement a system which will mirror the operational model in Dubai. And that ends the business news this evening here on News 360. There's more on our website, 3news.com. Back to you, Alfred.
Thank you, Natalie. Now, residents of Daboya in the North Gonja district have kicked against health officers personally procuring and selling medicines to them at exorbitant prices. The district hospital lacks medicines and other consumables.
The under-resourced polyclinic is expected to be a major referral center for the other facilities across the district. With farming communities as its catchment areas, about 98% of its clients are National Health Insurance beneficiaries. The non-payment of claims is affecting operations of the facility. Consumables are out of reach, and patients buy almost everything, including gloves, for health officers to use.
When they are to test you malaria test, you have to pay 5 cedis. When you go to Tolong, it's free. When you don't have health insurance, there are some medicines they will give you and ask you to go and buy. Here, Massa, for this one, if they had, the government will agree with me, they should just come and shut this one down.
I don't call it a clinic, it's a drugstore. Simple because there are no things that qualifies the facility to be a polyclinic.
Their plight is compounded with the absence of a pharmacy to serve them drugs. Patients will have to travel 67 kilometers over the White Volta Tolong Tamale stretch or over the 90 kilometers Bosono Tamale road. Officials of the facility intervened by personally procuring drugs for sale to patients.
It was even a favor and in our interest as a health institution if we want to save the lives of people. In Daboya we have, I think, just a chemical shop. It's not a pharmacy. And you know that a chemical shop can also provide some basic things, and most of which that we demand, especially in emergency response situations, they do not provide. And on our part, one, because we are not a polyclinic and we cannot prescribe certain medicines, we do not stock them. Two, even if we can stock them, supply is erratic because NHI reimbursement is in short supply.
But residents will not take it kindly.
So what we want the government and then the health workers in Daboya to do is that whenever somebody is in the hospital, there will not be drugs selling to the patient in the hospital. You can only ask the patient to go to somewhere and buy if there are no drugs, than to sell the drugs to the people in the facility.
The hospital officials had to stop the practice to avert any clash with residents and are appealing to government for urgent attention.
Let's turn attention away from the health sector now, as President Akufo-Addo has reiterated his administration's commitment to develop and modernize Ghana. At the 33rd Africa-America Institute Awards Gala in New York, President Akufo-Addo re-echoed the need to celebrate all persons whose efforts led to Ghana gaining her freedom.
According to President Akufo-Addo, Ghana is a country blessed with many natural and human resources, adding, with prudent management and deployment of these resources, the country will attain higher heights of development. President Akufo-Addo, who received the AAI 2017 National Achievement Award, called on Ghanaians to support government, bring development, and maintain its status as the beacon of democracy.
We had a peaceful transfer of power from a governing party to an opposition one. We did it without any fuss, and it is now part of what we do as a people. It is within this period of 24 years that Ghana has witnessed a consistent period of achievement. Today, after quite some time, we are recognized as a beacon of democracy and stability on the African continent. It will not be easy. We have no illusions whatsoever about the nature of the task that we face. But I know that Ghanaians will rise to the occasion. They always do.
President of African American Institute, Kofi Apenten, praised Ghana for her contribution to democracy and lauded the exemplary leadership of President Akufo-Addo.
The Africa-America Institute selected Ghana because of Ghana's accomplishments But we also looked at what is going on in the world and the choices being made by political leaders. And we could think of no better example of a real moral and courageous leader than President Akufo-Addo.
Producer and director of African City, a television and web series, Nicole Amatefu was honored for leadership in African media and arts. Founder and chairman of the Zenith Bank, Jim Ovia, received the AAI 2017 Awards in Business Leadership and the Innovation and Technology Award. The 33rd African American Institute Awards attracted professors, traditional rulers, diplomats, and congressmen of the United States.
All right, so the International Tribunal for Law of the Sea is expected to deliver its ruling on the Ghana-Ivory Coast border dispute on the 23rd of September 2017. That's just some 3 days away. Ghana and Ivory Coast are seeking a resolution over the dispute at the International Tribunal following Ivory Coast's accusation that Ghana is using the development of its oil industry to annex part of its territory, which does not belong to it. I mean, for us as a country. Côte d'Ivoire is claiming ownership of the disputed 10 oil fields, forcing Ghana to file a suit at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, that's ITLOS, to ward off Ivory Coast from disputed oil fields. Now, in the next 3 days, we'll know our fate on this particular claim to this oil fields. I've been joined via Skype by lawyer Kwame Jantua. He is a member of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee and an energy expert as well. Sir, thank you very much for your time. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Great. Now, from your own reading of this particular case and the ruling in the next 3 days, what are the chances of Ghana going into this particular ruling?
Good evening to your viewers. And from the way I see it, it can go 3 ways. It can either go for us, it can go against us, or they might say that we must come to some amicable agreement and share that resource in that disputed area. These are the 3 ways I see it can go.
Now, let's assume that they get a middle ground. How will that amicable solution be reached? Because that could have been done without necessarily going to the tribunal anyway.
Well, you see, one of the reasons, or some of the reasons why Ghana decided to take this case to ITLOS was that for half a century, both parties had mutually recognized and agreed to the maritime boundary with regards to the basis of the equidistant rule. And so for quite a long time, we didn't have that problem. But then Ghana had to now take it to ITLOS because first, Ghana's efforts to negotiate the settlement with Côte d'Ivoire, which, had gone on for quite some time, they had 10 bilateral meetings. They realized that Côte d'Ivoire started being intransigent in some of the meetings they had. They realized that Côte d'Ivoire were looking for an expanse new maritime claim. And, what they were saying really didn't make sense to the Ghanaian team. And so if it so happens that we have to now go for the third option being that we need to work out how we're going to do it, that would be quite some feat because we haven't been able to agree all these years. Why do you think we'd be able to agree now? So I think that the ruling will go either way, either their way or our way. But I think we have a good case in that we already have, and you know that they had already put a claim in that the court should rule that we stop every activity in that area, but the court rejected it and said that no, we cannot drill any new holes, but the ones that we are already working on, we can continue to work on them. I think that was a good ruling for Ghana at that stage. We've now come to the crux of it. If it so happens that we lose, you know the effect on the economy, the way we are depending on revenues to catapult our economy into an age of industry. And so it will be very challenging and very difficult if it doesn't go our way.
Well, in the very, and I'm speaking from a patriotic point of view, in a very unlikely situation that we have to lose this case. Let's look at the quantum effect, really. You've just touched on just a bit of it, but the quantum effect on us as a country.
I'm not sure whether you have seen the map in terms of what lines we're talking about, and I don't know whether I can show the map on screen because I have the map here. If I can, I'll just show you, and you can see that the map, it's what you call it, at the ends, it broadens out. They are saying that that line shouldn't broaden out, it should be straight. Now, you can imagine, if that line is straight, half of HES is cut, half of AGI is cut, half of the 10 field is cut. That would have a huge impact on the resources coming into, the revenue coming into, our economy. And I don't think that would bode well for us. I don't think that would bode well for us at all. So I'm hoping that the court would be categorical so that we don't have to come to this issue anymore. And what would happen here would also determine what happens on the Togo side. Because if this goes in favor of us, it could happen that the Togo side too, because you know that they've been trying to see whether they have lien over that boundary too. So if this one goes away, then really the Togo side might not have a case because we're talking about an equidistant line to the axis to the middle. And so if that happens, then at least we won't have to go through with Togo the same way we are going through with Cote d'Ivoire.
Great point there. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening. Grateful. Kwame Johnson is a member of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee and an energy expert. We'll be back shortly with some more news here on News 360. To stay.
Hi, good evening. It's time to bring you every bit of detail in the world of sports right here on News 360. My name is Thierry Nyan. Let's get started in India because the Black Starlets of Ghana have lost their first international friendly game ahead of the Under-17 World Cup. The tournament, which starts on October 6th, has the Starlets, preparing for the competition with friendlies in the Asian country. The first of them was against Mali, and they've lost. Eric Ayer, the captain, provided that particular goal. Pakwesi Fabing's side are housed in the same group as host India, USA, and Colombia. All right, so let's do some more football then. But before we get to these results, let's look at, the 2017 WAFU fixtures. I'm talking about the semi-finals. And, the parents have been made after the last round of games in the groups have been played. Ghana are going to be playing against Niger. So that's Group A champions against the runners-up in Group B. And then Group B champions, Benin, are going to be playing the runners-up in Group A, being the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It really promises to be a great encounter, in these two sides. So really, we're waiting to see what Maxwell Konedu will be doing with these boys. All the two games are to be played tomorrow. But what about games currently ongoing? We are going to be looking at some great matches. And, some of them have already started, most of them actually, and then just one waiting to kickstart in a few minutes. But Arsenal have taken the lead against Doncaster. Theo Walcott with a goal in the first half. Chelsea are also leading Nottingham Forest by 3-0. So a full debut for Charlie Musonda, the 17-year-old chap for Antonio Conte, and he's already gotten himself a goal at Stamford Bridge. Manchester United, also without the likes of Romelu Lukaku, are leading Burton Albion by 2-0. Marcus Rashford actually scored both goals. 3-0 are here. So 2 goals by Marcus Rashford. The game between Real Madrid and Real Betis is yet to start. So we definitely will keep an eye on that and brief you as and when. But Juventus are also drawing 0-0 against Fiorentina. Now, for those who do not know, this is a very, 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 hotly contested derby. Just 250 miles separating these two teams geographically. So when it comes to proper rivalries in Italy, really, this is at the, top of it all. Now, Lazio against Napoli is another game currently ongoing. Lazio are leading. Napoli, would you believe it? Napoli are one of the highest scoring sides in Europe this season, but they are losing to Lazio in midweek. Hamburger are also losing to Borussia Dortmund, and of course that was expected. But let's go straight to Spain then, because Lionel Messi yesterday's games made 9 goals for the season from 5 games as he hit 4 in Barcelona's 6-1 win over Eibar. It was his second hat-trick of the season and his 301st goal for Barcelona in the Camp Nou. Another match ball for the collection and another incredible start to the season by the Argentine. So these are his numbers. 2 hat-tricks in the last 4 games. 43 career hat-tricks. This man just doesn't know how to stop scoring. We remain in Spain because it's not just Lionel Messi making the headlines. Real Madrid, well, you didn't guess right. It wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo. Karim Benzema, he has signed a new 4-year contract extension that ties him to the club until 2021. The 29-year-old has scored 181 goals in 371 appearances since joining from French league side Lyon in 2009. He becomes the 4th Real player after right-back Dani Carvajal, left-back Marcelo, and midfielder Isco to agree to new terms at the Santiago Bernabeu. And that's exactly how we bring an end to the sports bulletin right here on News 360. Maybe I'm also going to be tying myself to a new contract very soon. Bumper deals everywhere. Anyway, so we end the sports right here on News 360. My name is Thierry.
Big events organizers of the annual Radio and Television Personality Awards have released a nomination list for the 2017 event. The 7th RTP Awards will come off on October 28, 2017. Ajua Mofose has more.
Natalie Ford, TV3.
The RTP Awards honors outstanding media personnel and organizations. The nominee unveiling event for the 7th edition was attended by some celebrated media personalities and past award recipients. While TV3 is competing for the TV Station of the Year, Media General earned a nomination in the Media Group of the Year category. News360 is in the News Program of the Year category. Affable news anchor Alfred Okanse was nominated for the Male TV Newscaster of the Year, with Natalie Ford and Nana Ikuya-Mensah Abrampa in the final shortlist for the Female TV Newscaster category. New Day presenter Bright Nana Amfo is in the race for the TV Morning Show Host of the Year. Acclaimed host of Community Connect on 3FM, Johnny Hughes, earned a nomination in the Radio Development Show Host of the Year category. Other nominees are as follows: New Day, Television Morning Show of the Year, Miriam Osei Ajiman, 3FM, Radio Mid-Morning Show Host of the Year, Deborah Kobler, TV3, TV Current Affairs Show Host of the Year, Ghana's Strongest, TV Reality Show of the Year 2016-2017, Christian Ajay Frimpong, Radio Entertainment Show Host of the Year.
Honestly, this is all we have for our industry, so we need to throw all the support we can give them, correct them, criticize them, and make it better.
It's almost impossible to buy your way to win any award, because for organizers, that is what's going to cause the death of the award scheme. If you start to sell awards, I mean, they've made it very clear that the way you can win an award. They have an academy or a board that's got 40% power. Then they have the public that's got 60% power. If anybody has any questions, the best you can do is to challenge them to show you the voting statistics and how the votes went.
The 7th RTP Awards will come off on October 28, 2017.
Oh, that's exciting. Congratulations to all the nominees.
Absolutely. Yes, and as the votings will start soon, we'll probably want to urge everybody watching to continue supporting them. But it's just clear exhibition of the good work that the team, it's a teamwork here that we celebrate. So congratulations to all team members on TV3. And we're grateful that you also appreciate what we do. Thank you very much for staying with us here on News 360. On behalf of the cameramen who make us look good, my name is Alfredo Kansi.
And I'm Natalie Force. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com. And news at 10 later this evening will simulcast on our sister station, 3FM 92.7. Next is Tashan. Enjoy your evening.